as the National Street Rod Association brings their world-class car show to Knoxville, Tennessee. Dream Rides drops in to scrutinize and comment on this amazing collection of custom conveyances. In chronological order, can you dig it? Welcome to Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides. While the NSRA defines street rods as modified vehicles manufactured before 1949, their shows are frequently open to creativity in all-year models. However, we'll start with one of the last of the very first street rods, a 1927 Ford Model T.
This is a 1927 Ford sedan. We found it up in North Vernon, Indiana, and went and picked it up and brought it home and started working on it right away. A 60 style hot rod is what we went for, and it was somewhat complete. All the components was there. We finished it, got it together, drove it a summer, and then took it apart this winter and completely did it like it is now. This year we probably put a few hundred miles on it. It's still early. This is our first show we've went to. It's a 383 stroker, 871 blower with quick fuel injection, estimated around 680 horsepower, and it runs pretty well. The car only weighs 2,400 pounds. It's a 9-inch Ford, and we're running a 327 rear end ratio. We got a turbo 350, so we want to be able to drive it on the highway a little bit. I'm gonna drive it a few years and enjoy it, and then I'll sell it to build something else.
After 1927, Ford switched to the Model A, giving street rods a whole new platform to play with.
1928 Model A. Found this car up in White Pine. It was in the top of a barn. The body, it was just a hole. We brought it home the day after Christmas of 2013. Me and my father decided to make a street rod out of it. We knew Ricky Bobby. We'd been around him a little bit, Ricky Bobby's Rod Shop, and we decided to call him on the way home that day, and we took it up to him and started making decisions, and in about 45 days this car showed up at home. 49 Ford Mercury flathead. It's bored out to 306, 4¼ crank in it. It's a pretty wicked little flathead. It's just a little package we put together. We had a gentleman build it for us out of Crossville, Tennessee, and he's known for building flatheads, and he kind of gave us a little guidance on the way we wanted to go. We wanted to build a wild little flathead, and this was the biggest flathead he'd ever built. We kind of let him make a lot of the decisions for us, but we told him what we wanted, and that's how we ended up with what we got. That car is really small on the inside, the way it tapers down in the front end, and I wanted something where I didn't feel like I was riding in a can, so I came up with the idea to put a snap top roof on it. Even though I'm sitting level with the floor, I wanted something that I could open it up in the summertime and feel some of the air. I just didn't want to feel like I was riding in a tunnel constantly. This car was built in 2014, and I probably got 5,000–6,000 miles on it. I don't know, it's still kind of new to us, and we still have a lot of fun out. It's a good conversation piece, so we'll probably keep it around for quite some time.
Time now to learn about Dustless Blasting's tools and opportunities with Brian Loans.
Well, Zach, you were right. That is incredible. The paint is gone in no time at all. It blows my mind. You know, if you're watching Dream Rides, you realize that pretty much every car in the show started out as somebody's project. And if you're starting out a project car, there's one thing you got to do. You got to remove paint and prepare a surface to repaint it the color you want. Man, Dustless Blasting has really created a system where you overcome a lot of those pitfalls that previous dry blasting systems had.
Absolutely. You know, we like to say no sanding, no warping, no rust, and no dust.
I'll tell you what, and you know, we're talking about heat dissipation, we're talking about environmental concerns. You know, I whipped out the heat gun to check on this thing before. We're out in the hot Texas sun down here at your headquarters. The panel on this truck was over 110 degrees when we started. The second you pull the gun away, it was 81 degrees.
It's amazing. You know, water truly does eliminate all the friction.
Not only that, it makes it a whole lot easier and more manageable to keep your work area clean. It keeps a lot of dust and other particulates from getting up in the airspace. Well, Zach, the truly amazing thing is, even for that short amount of time, we're down to basically a surface that looks like you can paint on right now.
Absolutely. As soon as it's dry, you're ready for primer.
We're going to be back next week, and when we do come back, it's my turn to give Dustless Blasting a shot.
Dustless Blasting Presents Dream Rides will continue the street rod saga with a look at pre-war style. Dustless Blasting Presents Dream Rides is being brought to you by Steel Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping, New Print Customs, hydrographics powder coating and custom coatings, Clamp Tight, the clamp making tool, and by Dustless Blasting. It's the future of surface preparation. Welcome back to the NSRA Car Show in Knoxville, Tennessee. In the years leading up to World War II, automobile styling reached an acme in elegance. This style of street rod goes beyond big performance. These cars also have class.
It's a 1934 Buick 60 series, 128-inch wheelbase. Me and my wife done it. I took a lot of cussing over this car. The paint is a 2010 1 BMW cashmere silver metallic. My wife done it. Now I give her a lot of credit. Just wish I had her 10 years before I had her. I've been with her 30 years. She also picked a colored interior. It's taupe leather, and she had a pocketbook. It was 30 years old that her mother gave her, and she laid it on the fender and said, "Here's your color." "Yes, ma'am, that's my color right there." I said, "We're gonna build it first." We messed with it for about 2.5 months and got the straight 8 running in it, and we drove it up and down the road in front of the house. He said, "Now what are you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna pull the front end off of it, and I'm gonna make a street rod out of it." And so that's where it went. My wife done all the rear light on the rear of the car. Tail lights, tag light, all. She done all of it back there. She's my best friend, and she's the 3rd best mechanic I know. Sometimes you just want to build something bigger. And I'd like to build a 90 series Buick. It's about 8 inches longer. It's a 128-inch wheelbase, and a 90's 136. But I'm gonna do all nail head in it. I'll put a Buick in it. It's a good 85, 90-mile-an-hour cruising car.
Even the pickup trucks of this era transcended mere utility.
My first wife was real sick, and I had to stay home with her for a long time. I needed something to do because I do construction work, and I just couldn't sit down and do nothing. So a friend of mine told me about this old truck that was for sale. Well, I just like pickup trucks. I mean, I've always had pickup trucks ever since I was real young, and I just love pickup trucks. So I went and bought it, took it home in the garage. The guy had already started restoring it some to original, but I wanted a street rod. So I took it completely apart, did all the body work on it, and I didn't know a whole lot about putting it back as a street rod, so I contacted a couple of guys that I knew that knew what they were doing. And so I took it to them, hauled it to them in a trailer with all the parts there, and they put it all back together for me and painted it. It has a Fat Man fabricated framework with it, Mustang 2 front end, 9-inch forward rear end 300, has a Muncie 4-speed transmission, and has rack and pinion steering, power disc brakes all the way around, has billet wheels, specialty wheels on it. We couldn't figure out what kind of color to make it. We had several different ones picked out, and I wanted a cherry wood bed because I do woodworking. So I made some cherry boards, took them down to the shop, and they said, "We've got to go with a green," when we saw the boards. So we hunted around for a green, and we spotted a 2014 Toyota Highlander that had a real nice color. Basically, that's what this paint is. It's been tweaked just a little bit, had just a little bit more green and a little bit more yellow added to it, just a small amount to bring the green out more. And it's a transition paint. If you put this truck in the shade, it'll be gray, and it's very unusual. I've had a lot of good compliments on the paint job. I don't drive it a whole lot because it's only been completed for about 2 months, and I've been trailering it till I get used to it, get the engine broke in because it's a brand new engine. The rear end, everything's all brand new, all the brake system. I want to drive it a little bit to get the bugs out of it before I take a long trip.
In December of 1941, the U.S. entered World War II, curtailing nearly all automotive production as the economy shifted into armaments. But a few cars squeaked past the changeover, like by a week.
I drove it a while as a original car and realized if I was going to get it on the highway that it needed to be more than an original car. So I set in with a long process of changing all that over and restoring, trying to make it look as much original as I could with the late model running gear. They had a straight 8 in it, and I'm not sure what the horsepower was on that. Right now it has a 5.3 Chevrolet Vortec. It has a Nova front end and rear end. It has the late model 6-speed transmission. So it has air conditioning, power steering, power brakes, about everything the modern day car has, except aerodynamics. It does not have that. On and off, I guess it took about 10 years. I had the help of a whole lot of friends, too many of them to even mention, and then it's just been on the road, enjoying it very much. It drives great. It's a really nice road car. It'll go down the highway at about any speed you want to go, but because of the design, there's a lot of wind noise when you get up 75, 80. We drive it quite a bit. I don't drive it every day, but in the spring and summer, we drive it a lot, and I take it to Daytona every Thanksgiving.
As we pack up the Packard, we move into a totally different era of customization. Post-war era autos, when Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides returns. Welcome back to Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides. After World War II, cars started looking radically different, giving customizers more choices for creativity, like this one.
I built about 22 cars. The reason why we did a Nash is because nobody else does them. And if you want something unusual, you have to find something unusual and build it from there. If you go to any of these big shows, you'll find at least 2 of everything that's here. But you're not going to pull into a show and park next to another one of these. It won the Oakland Roadster show when we finished a car and put it in the show in the year 2000. And it won the show and won Best Street Machine of Show. And it's been in 5 magazines, and it's been a very popular car wherever we've taken it. And I drive them, so, you know, it's got quite a few miles on it, but it's a very nice driver, and it's fun to drive, and everybody gives you the thumbs up, you know. Only thing that's really Nash is the body, but it's sitting on top of an Art Morrison all-tube chassis. It has an LT1 Street Performance Corvette engine, 700 R4 overdrive trans, and a Curry 9-inch narrow forward rear-end positive traction. I do have the original ad with this car and colors, and they made 2. One was a Berkshire, which had no wood trim, and then the Nash Rambler Custom had simulated wood trim, and that was the only difference. They were the same cars. I don't know if I could ever find another unusual car that would draw the attention that this car gets.
While technically not a post-war car, the Beetle was first imported into the U.S. in the 50s, making it the longest-running body style in history.
It's a 63 Volkswagen Bug ragtop. We got it just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. It was just a shell, no frame, nothing, no body underneath of it, nothing. It was raw. It was rough. It's a 67 4 pans. It's all been powder coated. We have all stainless steel polished bolts all on the whole 4-pan, all the fender wells, all stainless steel bolts and nuts. 303 horsepower at the rear wheel. Turbo fuel injected, 2386 cc. It's got 1/4-inch aluminum floor mats on it. It's got 8 hides of leather. Everything in the whole car is all wrapped in leather interior. It's got a bunch of speakers. It's pretty loud. It's a black diamond come on 2011 Cadillac V. But it's got an extra coat of pearl and it's got 7 coats of clear on it. I want to be different. I don't like to be like everybody else. I want something that would stand out in the crowd. We went to Cars and Coffee 2 weekends ago, and there's Ferraris and everything else there. And there was more people looking at my car than there was looking at the Ferraris. Just because it was something different and it's not just a walk in the park car. Me and my father built the speaker box, and we started just talking about other different things, and then started adding to with Darren, the other guy that works for him at Pro Stitch, and then started stacking it to Eric. We just started out with the center console aluminum, Then next thing you know, we start getting 4-match aluminum, just start going all out with the aluminum. These wheels, 18 by 10 billet specialist on the back, 5.5-inch offset. On the front is 17 by 7s. I've had people, our first show out, somebody tried to buy it from me. He told me to call him. I gave him a number, and he told me to call him whenever I was ready to sell it. So anything's for sale.
We'll look into another iconic car of the 60s after the break, when Dustless Blasting Presents Dream Rides returns.
Looking for an affordable alternative to chrome? Check out New Print Customs.
Spray on chrome, the new and the best alternative on the market today. It is a silver nitrate process that can be applied to any substrate. If you can paint the substrate, then we can chrome it. Hat, wood, plastic, glass, you name it, it can be chromed, and it looks like real chrome in different colors and many shapes, any size you can think of. They ship it to us. We process it, usually get it turned around in a week and a half to 2 weeks. We ship it back, usually less than half the cost of the real chrome.
We have a lot of different coatings to offer for many different industries. We do hydrographics where you do the wood grain interiors.
It looks like real wood grain, but it comes in printed patterns. So some of it is actually pictures that are taken of real wood and then put in a file and transformed over to the film. And then we put it on the substrate.
We do powder coating. We do ceramic coating for high temp parts. Our ceramic coating is good up to 2,000 degrees. The carbon fiber. We do a lot of firearms, so that it's not just for the automotive industry. Basically anything that you could want, an image, a wood grain, a camouflage, hundreds of patterns literally to choose from. If you have a part that is pitted, like pot metal, and it has pits in it, you can actually fill it in with your Bondo, prime it, get it good and smooth, and we can actually put the chrome right on top of it. We're basically your one-stop coating shop.
Dustless Blasting Presents Dream Rides is being brought to you by Steel Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Flowmaster, the exhaust technology company. Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radio since 1977. And by Dustless Blasting, it's the future of surface preparation. Our journey through history at the NSRA show brings us to the 1960s and the muscle car era. But none of these are your average boulevard bruisers.
1963 Buick Riviera. I was going between this and a 63 Thunderbird. I wanted something kind of big. It was low with a sleek stance. So I picked the Riviera. Bought this car in Fort Myers, Florida, and took it home and stripped it down, put it on a rotisserie and did all the metal work. It was a rust bucket. Spent about 5 years building this car. I had a parts car that was a 65. I had an engine in the 65. It was a 425 with 2.4 setup. So I put that in the 63. The headlights out of a 65 are mounted behind the 63 chrome pieces. And then there was a custom grille to match the front chrome pieces, which makes it all look the same. Color cars in the late 90s, GM color. It's a GM blue and a GM silver. I did all the body work and did everything. I put the stripe on it and did a lot of the painting underneath the hood and the deck lid and everything like that, cut it in. And then a friend of mine took it to his shop and he shot it. Smoothed out the firewall, put a vintage air system in it, made all the metal work to cover the radiator, inner fenders, and just smoothed everything out. I trailer it pretty much. Probably only got about 400 or 500 miles on it. Now, this is probably the 6th car I've built. I did a lot of pre-49 stuff, and then I wanted to do a bigger car, so that's when I got into this and did this, and I just finished a 57 Chevy for a guy in Atlanta. I've always been into cars. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever be out of cars. Ever since I came back from Vietnam, my first car was a 69 Judge.
Also peaking in this period of factory cruisers was the convertible, perhaps the ultimate in style and performance. Stock or custom, they make for great rides.
1964 Galaxy 500 XL convertible. And my parents bought it in 1984, and they gave it to me fall of '88. Well, the paint was faded off of it. The top was in okay condition, and the seats were ripped up in it, and it didn't run anymore because my parents had just let it sit and not drive it anymore. So that's when they gave it to me but I had to fix it myself. They weren't going to help me fix it or pay for any of it. Well, it's actually the original color for the car, and when I restored it, that's what I wanted to go back with, but it's just a little bit lighter than actual stock color, and it's Guardsman blue. It's got a 390 with the police interceptor manifolds on it. It's got a Edelbrock water pump on it, and just a Demon carburetor on top with MSD distributor ignition. Basically a stock engine, just mild cam in it, something to get it down the road. I'm gonna keep it until I'm dead. So I've had it this long, I'm not getting rid of it. It just floats down the road, you know, it just rides real easy. Everything's pretty tight in it now, and unlike when I was a kid driving it, and my fiance and my stepson love riding in it, and we get out and ride in it on any beautiful day we can, just put the top down, and it's just been a real joy driving it again.
As the saying goes, there's no substitute for cubic inches. No better epitomized than the 427 Stingray, arguably one of the world's best street machines.
This is a 1967 Corvette. I've had it 30 years. My wife and I, we got married in it, went on our honeymoon, and had it ever since. It was not an all original car. It had the headlights that was down in the grill. Took those and moved them back. Had the flares on it, took all that out and put it back like it's supposed to be. That was the only way that I could afford it, is it was not a high dollar car even 30 years ago. So I bought it and then changed all that, of course, years later. It's not the original engine that came in the car. It is a 67 427, but I looked for years to find the 67 because when I got it, it had a 327 in it. Color was green originally. I liked the green, thought about doing it, but I don't know, it seems like all Corvettes should be red. We drive it a lot, quite frequently, especially pretty weather on Sunday afternoons. My wife and I will jump in it and put the top down and cruise, and we just take the back roads. We don't really go anywhere special. We just pick a place and go. I put a Tremec 5-speed in it, so it's got the 5-speed in it now, and out on the highway it does real good. It's about 1,600 RPM going down the road at 65, 70, but if you want to go through the gears, it'll get it done. No, I'm not going to let it go. My wife won't let me let it go. She says, forget it, this car will stay with us until we die, so our kids will get it someday.
That's it for this season's first Dustless Blasting Presents Dream Rides. Join us again next episode when we go to the Summit Racing Open House in Ohio for a heady mix of high performance and polish.